What if health isn't about controlling your diagnosis, but about choosing how you respond to it? Today, I'm joined by Dr. Amy Behimer to talk about reclaiming control, creating health alongside autoimmune disease, and why small supportive habits can change everything. Welcome to the Spoonful Show. You're listening to The Spoonful Show, honest conversations about chronic illness, identity, and finding meaning, even when life changes everything. I'm Rachel, a chronic illness spoonie, and I'm really glad you're here. Let's get started. Thank you for joining me today. I'm Rachel. I'm so glad that you're here today. I have to start by asking you, what is a mantra or a quote that got you through this week? I'm not sure if you're having a great week. I hope you are. Or if you're having a rough week. Was there something in the back of your head that kept you going? For me, it was a quote that my grandfather used to say all the time. When the going gets tough, the tough gets going. And we recently had his funeral, and that was something that came up. And, I feel like I've heard that years and years ago. It's not something I have heard in a while, but to really think about it. And all of us with chronic illness, there are days where the going gets tough, and being able to say, you know what, when the going gets tough, the tough get going, and getting that fight mode back to fight those days that can be really frustrating and tiring and hard and painful. So let me know what your mantra or quote that got you through this week. Send it in the comments, send it over to Instagram. I'd love to hear it. So back to what we're talking about today. Living with an autoimmune condition can make you feel like control's just been ripped out from underneath you. Your body, your plans, your future. So today's episode is about finding your footing again. I'm joined by Dr. Amy Behimer. She's the host of Autoimmune Health Secrets and founder of the Club Habit Hub coaching program. As a board certified health and wellness coach and pharmacist, Amy combines her personal experience with autoimmune disease and professional expertise to help others build sustainable habits for better health. She's passionate about empowering people with chronic illness to feel better, live fully, and make wellness a reality, one small, impactful change at a time. Today, we'll talk about how we can feel in control of our health, even when we can't control our diagnosis. We'll explore what it means to shift from managing disease to creating health, why habits don't have to be overwhelming to be powerful, and how redefining health can bring more energy, purpose, and peace right where you are. So let's get started. I have been looking forward to this conversation for a long time. I want to introduce Amy Behimer to the show. And today we're going to talk about how to feel in control of your health, even when you can't control your autoimmune diagnosis. Welcome to the podcast, Amy.
I have also been looking forward to it.
Do you want to introduce yourself to our listeners?
Oh, I'd love to. I'm Amy Behimer, and the easiest way to introduce myself is kind of through these three lenses, these three hats that I wear. The first hat is an autoimmune patient. So at 17, I was diagnosed with vitiligo. Later in my 20s, Graves' disease, which is an autoimmune thyroid disease. And then at 27, I was diagnosed with primary progressive multiple sclerosis. And so that filters a lot of who I am, what I do, the things I spend my time on besides, my family and friends. I work as a pharmacist and have for almost 20 years. So that's kind of my conventional medicine hat in the healthcare system. It has really shaped my love of like evidence-based medicine and good high quality science and really understanding what is going on with our bodies when things go well, but also when things are asking for a little bit of help. So I have my pharmacist hat, I have my patient hat, and then the hat that I'm, most proud of is a culmination of both of those. And I now am a coach, a nationally board certified health and wellness coach, helping people with autoimmune diagnoses do the things that we're going to talk about today. Take back that sense of control in your health when it can feel like anything but.
Yeah. You mentioned you wear all of these hats. How does everything come together and lead you in the work that you do now as a wellness coach?
It's interesting. So many of my clients, they say over and over how much it helps that I live this life with them. And it's not even that I am talking that much about myself. I will offer my insights and things that I have worked through and ways that I look at things and things I experience if it's helpful. But even just when you're talking to someone who understands what you're talking about, it just, you probably get it, Rachel. It's just like,
Mhm.
oh, okay, I don't need to over explain. I don't need to wonder if she really gets it. So that part is always humming in the background. And then the other two are so beautiful because I was a pharmacist for, 10 to 15 years before I went back to school for the coaching certifications and trainings. And as a pharmacist, you're the expert. You come in, you know the facts, you know the way things, should go, or this is what the best idea is. And I loved getting to kind of come in as the complete opposite in my coaching, where you are the expert in you. And I'm talking to you being, you the listener, you the person who gets to be a really active, participant in your health. Because physicians, let's say you go to your doctor 4 times a year. What about the other 361 days? Like, who is helping you make decisions on what's going to feel good and what's going to give you the best chance to set your body up for a future that is going to function at its best? We can't promise it's going to function perfectly. You know, we
Mhm.
we I very really very realistically know that, that is not the case for me and for many others, but let's give our bodies the best chance they can. And thank goodness, the habits and the lifestyle that we can control all those days of the year, they are the same things that do both. They help us feel better today, but then they also are the same things that are going to set us up for a better tomorrow as well.
I love that you talk about the trust and having gone through autoimmune diseases yourself. It is such a difference to know that okay, this person understands, and that's where anyone with any chronic illness, we can all relate to each other a little bit, just because even if I have MS and somebody else has lupus, we still get it. We still get the daily grind of
Yeah.
dealing with chronic illness and everything.
Yeah, I think
um
in my group there are probably, I would say, 10 to 14 diagnoses that are represented. And
yeah.
a lot of us, your listeners too, probably have multiple diagnoses.
Mhm.
And the coolest part about it is that it brings us together and we have a shared understanding, but it kind of dissolves away when you get into a space where you are more focused on, okay, what now? Okay, what am I moving towards still with this diagnosis? Or I like to say, because of this diagnosis. I mean, I know for me, I would not be doing the things that I'm doing, thinking in the way I'm thinking, or like taking control of how I feel if I didn't have this MS diagnosis. I mean, it was a turning point, and I like to look at it as, oh, I'm going to get all these healthier benefits, mental, physical, emotional, because of you diagnosis, not in spite of you.
I love that. I love that. With the people that you work with, what do you feel like they struggle with most when they've received a diagnosis and they're just trying to figure it out?
You know, it's probably similar to what I struggled with when I was first diagnosed. I remember believing, like truly believing, oh, my life will always be worse now. I mean, when I've presented on multiple sclerosis in medical settings, you have that first slide that is, chronic, neurodegenerative, progressive, debilitating, words that are I mean, they're very fear-inducing, and there's evidence for some of them. So it's not that they're wrong, but it's very easy to believe that with a diagnosis, you know, I always thought I would have this cloud over my life. And so I think a lot of people feel that as well, is that, you have this new diagnosis and now you're just trying to figure out how to make it as best as it can, but always kind of with this sneaky belief like it can't be as good or better. And I tell that story of that belief I had because it took me a good 10 years of active, deliberate intention of wanting to shift that belief to not only, you know, not feel like doomed or feel that fear of the future, but really start to build evidence that, it started with it's possible I can still have a really good life. And, when I practiced that belief and when I leaned into that belief, I felt more hopeful and was doing, I started doing things in a different way to help prove that belief true. Because, whatever we're thinking, our brain seeks evidence for in the world. And so just, helping people, back to your original question of what do people struggle with, helping people identify a belief that they may not realize is clouding their experience, and then little by little, just wiggling it loose and opening that door for possibility for, taking control, back to the theme of what we can so that we can, shift the direction of that future in a degree here or a degree there.
I think that's so wise because I dealt with that myself. I'm 10 years past my diagnosis. And I remember saying to my husband, I I don't think I'm going to feel any better than I am today. I
Mm,
can't see, this may be the best that I feel,
yeah,
and truly believing that. And I'm still in, working through that process, but I think that that's normal for people to feel like this is something I'm going to have forever and it's going to be that dark cloud. Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, I mean, imagine. I mean, a lot of people talk about wanting to get back to their old self, but I really believe that so many of us, when we again have this reason to look at the areas in our lifestyle that we are able to control, because there is a big chunk that we can control. And when we do that, imagining that not only do we get back to how we felt before, which would be 100%, what if we actually are able to go beyond that? Because again, we're making choices that we didn't really have a compelling reason to do before this diagnosis.
Yeah. Yeah. I think in traditional healthcare, patients are often told what to do and to follow these instructions. So, how would you advise somebody to be an active role in their healthcare? You talked a little bit about that, and us being kind of the experts of our bodies. So, how would you advise somebody in that?
The question comes up a lot. People have very strong opinions on medications a lot of time. You have this conventional piece, and sometimes there's this thought or belief based on whatever has happened in your life thus far that it can be poisonous or it's toxic, and they may not want to take it. Some people will say, "Oh, you're a pharmacist. You must be into medications." I don't love taking medications. I do choose to take a disease modifying medication because, weighing the risks and benefits. And I really just want to empower people to make their decision based on really good information, to talk to, whether that's their doctor, whether that's asking to talk to a pharmacist, and really looking at these medications and saying, what is the real risk and what is the real benefit that I could stand from getting? I call my medication kind of my defense, and then my approach to my lifestyle and my habits, my offense. Like, this is my more active role in it. But in regards to how to advocate, I talk about these 5 S's, a secret sauce of sorts, even though I wish it wasn't a secret. Let's get everybody on board with it. But to better health with autoimmune disease or autoimmune health, first is science. There is some really good science, whether it's with conventional medicine, whether it's with the lifestyle changes that I'm sure, are going to talk about. Science can be a great starting point, but the second S is the self. I mean, there is there are people in the world that kale is toxic to them, right? So you can have all the science in the world, but if you don't pair in what you know about yourself, what you learn about yourself, um, it's going to fall flat, and it's always going to feel like somebody else's plan. And the other three S's, just for completeness sake, so we don't leave people hanging, are simplicity. So again, understanding things that even with your provider, really not nodding along and saying, "Oh, I get it," but being brave and saying, "I don't know what you're saying. Break this down." The simpler things are, the better off that we are going to be able to follow through on them. The fourth S is strategic or strategy. If you have a plan and you'd like to make some changes, really realizing it can take a skill set to change things in a way that doesn't feel hard or doesn't feel like deprivation. And then the last one is support. So, doing hard things alone is going to make anything so much harder. So I'm not sure if those five components help answer your question or not.
Oh, I love that. I think for people, it can be so confusing on what to trust and who to trust and whether the information you're looking up online is true. And it's really difficult to make those decisions.
Yeah.
And I grew up in the day where you listen to your doctor, whatever he says goes, and that's what you did. And a lot of times I know with MS, the DMTs are very scary and the side effects are very, very scary. And I've had situations where I've taken certain medications and it's led me to other things, and I've had to get off the medication and try something else. So, how do you find that balance of this is what I'm reading, but how do I know it's true? And this is what my doctor is saying. And how do I know that's what I should trust?
We are in an information infobesity crisis. I mean, the amount of information being hurled at us. Sometimes, if we have the TV on, if we check email, if we sign up for that one email one time, and then we get summits with 50 speakers speaking over 2 days, social media now with AI, there's a very real misinformation thing happening. And instead of, this goes back to what we're talking about, controllables. We can't control the amount of information that is out there, and it's going to continue to increase. What we can control is the filter that we put on it. So if we look at it as, if I'm overwhelmed by information, then I just have a filter failure. And going back to the 5 S's of that secret sauce, strategy is one. And a strategy that works time and time again, I have an ABC habit playbook. So it's these 20 strategies that are pulled from the behavior change research and the amazing books that are out there and research experts. And it packages it up in a way that we can look at, okay, what strategy do I want to use at different times? And for this, there's one called Support Squad, which really is being intentional to say, who am I letting in? Who is going to make it past my filter that I trust, so that I'm not overwhelmed by this conflicting advice and these people on the internet who don't know me? Anytime there's one-sided information, we're at risk of that, where it may be the science, but who's asking you for your experience? I have people who come to work with me and they are taking doses of things, vitamins, or doing these things that can be proven that they could be good for some people, but their levels are toxic and they're worried to stop, though, because this person is saying that. So with that, I think finding your support squad, recognizing you're going to have a physician, maybe you have a physical therapist. More and more, I hope everybody feels like, God, I want a coach too. You may have a therapist, you may have various other practitioners, but assemble that support squad. Really decide what kind of information and what am I working with them for, and how do they help me get healthier and feel better. And then all that conflicting noise will start to go down, because you just check back. You go, oh, other people are slipping in. Let me go back to my support squad. I don't need to know everything everybody's doing. These are the people I trust, and this is what I'm going to take action on because we can't take action on all that stuff anyway. We just need a couple things to get going.
Yeah, it can be really overwhelming. Are you looking for merch that speaks to your truth and makes you laugh? Spoonful of Strength has you covered, literally. From t-shirts and hoodies to mugs and magnets, every design is made for the chronic illness community with heart, humor, and a whole lot of strength. Funny? Check. Inspirational? You bet. Illness specific? Absolutely. And the best part? I can personalize any design or create a custom shirt for you for no extra charge. So whether you're laughing through the pain or wearing your diagnosis with pride, our designs are funny, fierce, and illness specific because being chronically ill doesn't mean being chronically boring. So if you want a sweatshirt that gets you, head to spoonfulofstrength.etsy.com. Now that's spoonful with 2 L's. Use code podcast for 20% off your entire cart. Now, to talk about some habits that support energy, you focus on sustainable habits instead of drastic changes. So, why is that approach important for people with chronic illness or autoimmune disease?
We tips and tricks and hacks are good, but they're only good when you do them. So if we do a tip or a trick once, then we're not really giving ourselves time for our body to incorporate and change and feel the benefits of it. And so really focusing in, our focus creates our reality. And so again, yes, there are 20 things we could do, but boiling that down, we call it trusting in the tiny. That's another strategy from the playbook, that if I start with this one or two things and I really let them become a part of who I am so that you don't even have to think about that one anymore. You're now on default. That's the whole point of a habit, is that we do it without really thinking. And so if we do them methodically, slower, and let them become the default, we are saving energy by not having to make a bunch of decisions. And then we are actually creating energy because the things that we're slowly replacing are the things that our mitochondria love, that are going to end up fueling us into the future. So that's a little bit of my, the science into it. And yeah, it's so tempting to say, oh, I can't just do this one thing. Like I should be doing more. But I mean, that's the way we move mountains, is just one habit, one day, one step at a time. Because as you start to get good at the skill of changing habits, they'll start to snowball from there. And you'll notice that, oh, maybe I can't take on more than one goal at a time. And it starts to be at that upward spiral.
Can you tell us a couple easy and small but meaningful habits that you can do?
Yeah, I may orient everybody. So I have a framework and it's called the Habit Hub for autoimmune health, the Habit Hub. So if you visualize a hub, there are 6 key areas that make up our lifestyle. And this is back to control, that make up the controllables in our health. So let's say our genes, our genetics, things that we can't change, that's anywhere from 10 to 30% of the autoimmune equation. So we will bless that part and accept it and live with it. But then we're going to shift our direction to the controllables. These things, the environment, are habits that we can actually shift and make a difference in. So the 6 areas, first is mindset. So sometimes it doesn't feel like our thoughts and feelings are optional, but there is a strategy behind how to actually shift our thinking into a more healing and useful thinking. So that's mindset. The second spoke of the Habit Hub is food. The third one is movement. The fourth one is rest and relaxation. So everything de-stress, everything sleeping. The fifth one is relationships and connection. So that's a fun one. And the sixth one is challenges that we take on in different ways. And so the one, back to your question, that is going to be meaningful is going to be the one, you may know it off the top of your head. I like to say, what do you want to do? And that's what habit research shows, is that the place that you likely think you want to start, not where you think you should start. Where do you want to start? That is going to be the most meaningful change. And I actually have a quiz that I created that I can share the link if people are wondering, but it's 7 questions, it's 3 minutes, and it lands you using the science, it lands you in one of those 6 areas that may give you your biggest bang for the buck if you start there. But it can be as simple as where do you want to start? And again, what do you want to do in that area? You likely know. I mean, we want to complicate it. We want to say, oh, what's the perfect one? But instead, let's do something we want in maybe something in the past. Oh, I felt better when I wasn't eating out this number of times, or I felt better when I was making sure that I ate a salad every day, or I felt better when I moved, 3 mornings a week, or whatever it is, start there. And that likely is going to be the most meaningful and really just start to build the skill of changing the habit because then you get to take that skill and you get to apply it to all the future goals that you want to set in the future too.
I love that. I love that whole wheel.
Well, and
Um,
the best part is nothing I said there isn't already known.
yeah.
It's just packaged in a different way because like frameworks only work when they are sticky, so we remember them, and we can file things away in a way that makes sense so it's holistic. So that's the good thing. I'm not making up things that are going to be good for our body. The
Right.
basics are the basics are the basics. Our bodies are predictable in some ways. It really loves when we take care of it and give it energy. It will give us some energy back.
Right. Right. I love that. Um, Sometimes people with chronic illness can feel kind of disconnected from their bodies. So, what's a good way that we can start rebuilding our trust and listening to those support people that we talked about without fear?
Hmm. You know, sometimes instead of advice, instead of, trying to follow through on something someone said, sometimes a really good question can help us start to build that trust. So, in the moment, let's say, I'm trying to think of an example that we probably all have experienced. Let's say we had a plan to exercise or work out and it comes time to do it and our bodies are like, oh, I'm not feeling it, or for some reason we're like, I'm not feeling it, I want to ditch that plan. Maybe we're too exhausted, maybe we're too fatigued. A good question like, what kind of love do I need right now? Do I need self-love or do I need tough love? Because if we always keep reinforcing with ourselves that we're going to make decisions because we're asking more of ourselves, right? We're trying to
Mhm.
change habits that are not super comfortable now for a gain in the future. And so it could be so easy to, our bodies and our brains want to resist that change. So if we have a plan, and I can answer different for different times. So let's say it's Monday at 5 and I have walked and worked and it's time for my walk. And I say, God, what do I need right now? Do I need a little gentle love or do I need a little tough love? And you know what? Yeah, my foot drop was a little bit bad. I am exhausted. Maybe gentle love would be switching to a 5-minute stretch video and saying, you know what? You followed through on this. You listened to your body. But the next Monday, I could have not had as tough of a day and I just don't feel like it because it's a little bit chilly. I may say, you know what? I need a little tough love, Amy. Go follow through. You're going to love those steps. So just that little dialogue with yourself can start to build trust that, you know what, maybe I can learn what my body likes and test it out and respond to her in a way that doesn't feel like you have to do this, that can be in some of the typical habit building culture.
It's really so important that you listen to your body and really get to know what works for you, what's going to put you in a flare and
Yeah.
not overdoing it and all that. It's such a balancing act.
And having a plan B. I mean, plan A could be that stretch goal. It could be that tougher workout or that meal that you're preparing because you want to have leftovers and it has good ingredients, and but what's the plan B? It doesn't have to go and revert back to potentially something that you want to change because it's not really fueling your health in the long run. So plan B can be a gentler version of that where you're still showing up for yourself. You're still building that trust while making progress.
Mhm. Your website has so many wonderful resources between the quiz and you've got a podcast and all of these things. Talk with me about your health coach and what you do with your one-on-ones, and all the great information that you've got available on your website.
Oh, thank you so much for highlighting that. Yeah, if you want to find out a little bit about yourself and what your habit is, the quiz is a great place. I do also have a podcast. It's called Autoimmune Health Secrets, and you're listening to this podcast, so you probably love podcasts.
Mhm.
I find that us podcast listeners, tend to stick here. So I'd love to hear you over there with coaching, or hear from you over there. With coaching, for the most part, I coach in my group. It's called Club Habit Hub. So you can see where the name comes from. We kind of live this habit hub approach of balanced approach to habits that slowly but surely, sustainably, we just inch, sometimes, sometimes faster, but we just march towards, habits that fuel our bodies, fuel our brains in a way that feels good. So it's not, just getting through this 30 days of this or that. It really is internalizing and being intentional about our days and all these controllables in a way that feels good so that it lasts for good. So the group, I also call it the club for short. The group is kind of that one-stop, beautiful place to come in and get all the support. I call it a trifecta of support because it's live coaching with me. So real human, personalized coaching every single week. There is a curriculum for people who love to go in and learn. And then there is a really thoughtfully curated community that sets up all the science of habit change that we know. It sets it up to do it together with people because community is so healing. I just recorded a podcast episode about ChatGPT health and what it can offer, and also just I was digging into the benefits that we get when being in human connection, even if it's through Zoom. And it just, reaffirmed my love for the amount that we can do together in community. And from there, I do some one-on-one if group members are like, you know what, I'd like a season of, a little extra accountability, extra support, and one-on-one. But the group truly is such a beautiful place for anybody, again, wanting to make their futures a little bit healthier than what's going on now. And when we feel healthy, happiness tends to follow. So yeah, or even just for peace. It doesn't have to be an extreme like happy. My version of happy that I love is content. I feel like everybody kind of has their emotion that, you know what, if I could feel a little more of this. Some people come in because they just want to feel more optimistic. Some people want to feel more accepting or peaceful. You can set any goal as a habit, right? So I want to make it a habit to feel more of this or to
Mhm.
think more of this or to do more of this. So that's another cool thing about the habit hub approach is it's outer habits, but it's also those inner ones too.
Hmm. Yeah, that's great. I feel like everything that you offer on your website is taking care of not just the physical, but the social and the mental health that comes along when you have a chronic illness. And so I love that.
Well, and it's not a surprise because I'm one of the very small percentage of people. I think it's like less than 10% of people that if you say you want to make a change to your habits, you just do it. It's kind of like, oh, okay, I'll do it. But the part that stuck for me was this mental, the emotional, was it wasn't until I worked with my first coach over 10 years ago and I learned how much power and control and influence we have over how we're thinking and feeling. Like that changed everything for me. And so, yes, we talk about the outer habits because we use them as a tool, but we're always looking at how are we thinking and feeling behind what we're doing, because that changes everything. So I'm so glad you picked up on that because that's the part that I was missing and the part that I needed help with and the part that really changed my experience with this diagnosis.
Yeah. How are you doing in your multiple sclerosis journey?
I'm 14 years in, just about coming up on 14 years, and I I would say I'm doing well. I mean, I have similar, it's primary progressive, so there's been some progression. I've been on a DMT all the way through. I really those controllables, I do my darn best. So I really try to feed my body high quality fuel. I keep moving. The mindset piece, I think, is to credit for everything. I mean, people who on my team, they'll see me, they're like, I think it's how you're thinking. They
Yeah.
kind of notice a difference in the mindset, but resting, really putting relationships and connections, like connection is everything for me. So my clients, my family, I'm an aunt, I'm a fierce, fierce aunt, and take that very seriously. And so, doing well, doing well. I recently got to tap into some of the new cool science with some gait training things. It's called a PONS device. I don't know if many people have heard of it, but it's kind of a pretty intensive physical therapy program that it helps with gait and walking and things. So I feel pretty darn lucky that the science is I think trying to help us out as much as it can.
Yeah. And we need to mention that your website is amybeheimercoaching.com, and we will link that to all the Instagram and TikTok posts as well as the description in the podcast. There'll be a link to that.
You
And I'm
won't find me,
gonna
you won't find me on TikTok because I've never logged into TikTok. But if there's another Amy Behimer out there, then bless
yeah.
her.
Yeah, no kidding. And also the quiz will link as well, and so that they can go on. That's kind of sounds like the starting point for getting to connect with you.
Yeah, it definitely gets you so that we share emails, and then I'm
Mhm.
always just a reply away.
Yeah.
I also have a couple fun things. I have something called an energy audit and edit where you answer some questions and I kind of come in as a bird's eye view and give you an outsider perspective of potentially where some energy drains that you may not be aware of are. And I don't know if this is when we're going to air, but March 1st, I'm starting a month-long consistency challenge. It's the first time I'm running it, but consistency is the number one thing that people want more of, and it's the truly the thing that can change everything. And so all month long, if this does air in February, I'll be excited to welcome anybody in who wants to take a really hands-on, loving consistency challenge with me. Pick any habit and we will make you consistent with it. You will make it consistent within the month of March. So using all these strategies and secret sauce that I mentioned. So it's kind of a fun way to get exposed to it.
Yeah, that does sound fun. Well, I really appreciate you joining me today. I feel like that you just brought some really good information, and I'm really excited for our listeners to be able to connect with you and go onto your website. It's so much information on there, and for joining me to talk about how to feel in control of your health. Thank you. Are there any last words to leave our listeners with?
No, I just appreciate everything that you're doing. I love the message that you put out into the world. I'm grateful that you're in my ears as well. And yeah, I guess my parting thing would be just start somewhere.
I want to thank Amy for being here and sharing her story and her wisdom so honestly. I hope that anybody listening who feels overwhelmed or out of control can walk away knowing this. You're not failing and you're not broken. You still have power even here. And sometimes that power looks like one small supportive choice at a time. Thank you for saving your spoons to be here with me today. And I look forward to talking with you next week. Take care.
Thank you for listening to The Spoonful Show. Follow the podcast so you never miss an episode. Leave a rating, review, and comment. Connect with me on Instagram at Spoonful of Strength and TikTok at spoonful.of.strength. Remember, that's spoonful with 2 L's. Shop customized t-shirts, sweatshirts, hoodies, mugs, and more on our Etsy shop at spoonfulofstrength.etsy.com and use code podcast for 20% off your entire cart.